What's up, guys? So we've all seen this message going around from Robbie Starbuck claiming that Walmart is ending their DEI policies. And I disagree. We'll look at why I say that and a couple of articles that I've got pulled up that kind of back up that point. Now, this is going to be about Bridge, and we will talk about what Bridge actually is and some of the stuff that they're doing, but let's jump right into this tweet from Robbie first. So he basically says Walmart is ending their woke policy, and here are the changes that Walmart is committed to. Surveys. Walmart will no longer participate in the HRC's Woke Corporate Equality Index. Okay, cool. Products. Monitor the Walmart marketplace to identify and remove inappropriate sexual and or transgender products marketed to children. Funding grants. Review all funding of Pride and other events to avoid funding inappropriate sexualized content targeting kids. Now, with these first couple of points that he's made, there are a couple of things I want to point out from the video that he has added into this post. So let's take a look at those.
Bullet point number 1, Walmart will be removing all inappropriate sexual and or transgender products that are marketed toward kids, things like chest binders for teenagers or books that encourage transitioning. That is all going to be gone. Bullet point number 2, Walmart is going to review and stop funding to all events that could be sexually inappropriate for kids. That includes drag queen story time or pride events that expose kids to sexually inappropriate topics. That's all going to stop going forward. Third,
that's not true, Robbie, because all they said was that they are going to be reviewing the funding. And I've actually got evidence that they are going to continue to fund Pride, but maybe try to restrict how the money is spent on those Pride parades. So since we see that Robbie, who also claims that Walmart is the largest employer in the United States, when in fact it is the United States federal government that is the largest employer, side note, Walmart is one of, if not the largest private employer in the United States. But let's take a look at some articles that actually cover what Walmart claimed and not just take Robbie's word for it. Here, from NBC Los Angeles, we have Walmart pulls back on DEI efforts, removes some LGBTQ merchandise from website. That's not all, that says some. So we'll skip over these bullet points real quick. Walmart confirmed on Monday that it's ending some of its diversity initiatives, removing some LGBTQ related merchandise from its website, and winding down a nonprofit that funded programs for minorities. The nation's largest employer, which has about 1.6 million US workers, again, they are not the largest employer, that's actually the United States federal government, joined a growing list of companies that have stepped back from diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts after feeling the heat from conservative activists. Not true. Some have also attributed changes in the US Supreme Court's decision last year that struck down affirmative action programs at colleges because those were racist and technically illegal. Those companies include Tractor Supply, which in June said it was eliminating DEI roles and stopping sponsorship of Pride festivals. Lowe's, Ford, and Molson Coors have also walked back some of their equity and inclusion policies in recent months. Others, such as Anheuser-Busch, owned Bud Light, and Target, have faced sharp backlash and falling sales after marketing campaigns or merchandise focused on the LGBT community. In a statement, Walmart said it's willing to change alongside our associates and customers who represent all of America. Guys, this is just puffed up speech because we're going to go into what Bridge is and some of the stuff that Walmart's actually doing here. We've been on a journey and we know we aren't perfect, but every decision comes from a place of wanting to foster a sense of belonging. Guys, remember this word. You're going to start seeing the word belonging show up a lot in the near future. To open doors to opportunities for all our associates, customers, and suppliers, and be a Walmart for everyone, the statement said. Among the changes, Walmart will no longer allow third-party sellers to sell some LGBTQ-themed items on Walmart's website, including items marketed to transgender youth such as chest binders, the company spokeswoman Molly Blakeman said. She said it also recently decided to stop sharing data with the Human Rights Campaign, a nonprofit that tracks companies' LGBTQ policies, or with similar organizations. But what does that really mean? Because there are other companies that track specifically DEI initiatives that companies have in play. They didn't mention that, they mentioned the LGBTQ policies. So that is really kind of a gray area, and I think they're intentionally being vaguely spoken with this statement. Additionally, the big box retailer is winding down the Center for Racial Equity, a nonprofit that Walmart started in 2020 after George Floyd's murder sparked protests across the country. At the time, Walmart and the company's foundation pledged $100 million over 5 years to fight systemic racism and create the center. Now, Robbie, in his video, states that it is coming to an end, it is full stop. But this program was designed to continue through 2025. So what this is actually saying is that they're just not going to renew what was already planned. They're going to continue to spend the rest of the $100 million that they had ready for this center, but they're just not going to continue it past the date that it was initially planned for. Over the past year, the company has phased out supplier diversity programs, which gave preferential financing to some groups, such as women and minorities, after the Supreme Court decision striking down affirmative action. It's also moved away from using the term diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, in company documents. So they're moving away from the term. That does not mean they're moving away from the idea or the ideals that are preached within the DEI movement. Employee titles and employee resource groups. For example, its former Chief Diversity Officer role is now called the Chief Belonging Officer. They're not getting rid of this stuff. And it's not just a matter of changing the name. They're changing up the tactics and how they implement this into the business. And as we go on, we'll look into a little bit more of that stuff. So this article also states that the DEI changes were first reported by Bloomberg News, and I've got the archive for the Bloomberg News site, and here is an important bit out of this. Walmart said it would stop using DEI and instead focus on belonging and work on a respectful and supportive environment. It also confirmed it will review funding of all Pride events and monitor online merchants for what Starbucks described as sexual and or transgender products marketed to children and remove items as necessary. That doesn't mean they're stopping. They're going to review, and keep in mind that some of the things that we consider sexualized, because they are, this far left DEI supporting group has been telling us constantly over the years that these are not sexual things. That's how they try to obfuscate what it is that they're actually doing. Here we have an article from Adweek from just a couple of days ago. The ad world is racing to reframe DEI as a second Trump era looms. Multicultural members of the marketing and advertising industry were shaken not just by Donald Trump's general election victory, but also by how he won. Through huge advances across nearly every cohort, including Hispanics and Gen Z, who are themselves the most multicultural of all American generations. Despite diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives peaking after the 2020 murder of George Floyd and retracting due to right-wing blowback, it is Trump's acolytes who have ironically become more diverse. It's not ironic that people who support MAGA have become more diverse. Why is that? That's because we are actually accepting of other people, accepting of other cultures, accepting of other races. But we have an ideology that goes against this cult-like behavior that we've been watching over the past several years. Now, these DEI initiatives were all in place before George Floyd died, but they really got the big push that they needed whenever organizations like BLM latched on to the situation that happened. Many attendees at November 15th's Ad Color conference in Los Angeles, which promotes DEI in the ad industry, told Adweek they were still processing Trump's victory and what it means to engage with a population that's both extremely divided and extremely diverse. Maybe they're opening their eyes, but I doubt it. But many agreed that the way DEI initiatives are structured within a company and the way they're communicated with the public needs to be drastically rethought. It's time to figure out what those new rules are, strategize, and move forward, said L.J. Lewis, WPP's Global Chief Talent and Inclusion Officer, during a panel with 4 other agency holding companies' diversity execs. The new old DEI message. The ad industry is determined to reposition DEI as all-inclusive, as DEI became first popular and later politicized during the first half of the 2020s. Opponents branded it as exclusionary to anyone who wasn't multicultural. Why did opponents brand it that way? Was it the opponents that did that, or was it because everyone was the white devil? If you were a white man, you were getting the shaft in all of this, and you were openly being told that you were the problem. I understand that the internet has a short memory, but we can't let anybody forget this one. What the election showed us is we didn't speak to everyone, said a board member of Bridge, an organization that helps companies build DEI initiatives. We had people who said, I'm not interested in DEI training, that has nothing to do with me. It pushed individuals away from coming together and realizing we need this to make for a better business, a better economy, and a better country. Because that's their ultimate goal, is to have a takeover of the society and the social norms that we live in. This isn't just about helping businesses, it is pushing an ideology. Multiple members of the ad industry said they're determined to reverse the politicized thinking around DEI. And again, we're going to get a little bit more into that. We all know why it got so polarized, though. It was because they picked a target, decided that white men were the bad guys, and then decided to launch a full-out attack. Brian Lockhart, ESPN's SVP of Original Programming, emphasized to Adweek that inclusion is meant for everybody. This idea is not new, but was forgotten as a central tenet after DEI became a flashpoint for 2020. Again, we know why that happened. They decided to target a specific group, rather than continue to try to do what they were doing before, where they were staying relatively under the radar, but they were still pushing this ideology. DEI has always been about everybody, so it hasn't changed, said Christina Pyle, Chief Equity Officer of Dentsu Americas. You see, we keep having these equity officers and stuff like that show up. But again, a lot of these are going to be changing to belonging, and I can guarantee you that that's what's going to happen. It's meant to include multiple communities, for example, veterans, which make up every shade, every religion, every socioeconomic level, Pyle told Adweek. Less about morality, more about growth. There isn't yet a consensus on how DEI can be repositioned, because they're struggling. Bridge founder and CEO Cheryl Dija said there needed to be standards on how to implement and operationalize it within a business, with a focus on achieving business results. That wasn't the way it had been widely thought of before, she told Adweek. It has been a philosophy, a moral imperative, she said. In business, it's easy to argue against philosophy, but impossible to argue against revenue. So they're trying to find a way to shift this to being more about the money now that they have been after the moral imperative for so long. They think that they may have gotten enough of a cultural win that they can start to normalize this type of thinking. I hope that that's not the case. How DEI drives business growth was a point of emphasis throughout the AdColor conference. Pyle joked on stage that chief diversity officers should retitle themselves as chief growth officers. But maybe, what if they didn't use the word growth and instead used a word like, I don't know, belonging? This role isn't given enough credit in how we drive revenue and growth, she said. She later told Adweek that chief diversity officers are often pulled into pitches because clients consistently ask about the composition of agency teams to resonate with a wide spectrum of audiences. The number of RFPs and RFIs asking that peaked in 2020, she said, and has since held steady. I don't think it has. To be perfectly honest, I think it's been falling off because people are more concerned about the revenue. But we always get these kind of these dancing words around things so that they don't actually have to admit what it is that they're saying or thinking. That importance of having diverse teams was apparent during a panel where two P&G marketing execs, Eric Austin and Angelica Matthews, dove into how incorporating marketing staffers with multicultural experiences, or failing to do so, has impacted the reach of some of its key products like Old Spice, Dawn, and Cascade. Austin noted that Old Spice's famous "The Man Your Man Could Smell Like" campaign failed to resonate with black men. What? Now, why would that be the case? And why would something like this work? Listen to this. After it relaunched with a new campaign called Men Have Skin Too, spearheaded by Masillant Shelton, a black female director. The brand is on fire right now. Why would Men Have Skin Too be resonating better with people? That's something that I fully just can't grasp. And now I'm not a marketing executive. I don't work in marketing. But it sounds like this was something on the heels of the 2020 George Floyd incident and riots, and that maybe that had something to do with it. Whereas we had enough people that were exerting social pressure on others to get people to accept this new ad campaign. Why? Because a black female director. We have seen this stuff happen time and time again, where because of the skin color or ethnicity of a person that's running a program, you must be accepting of it. Otherwise, you're the problem. And they continue to go further into marketing jargon with this, but I do want to bring up an article from 2022 just really quickly. White men are feeling left out of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Why should we care, and what should we do? So this is a pivot that they've been trying to make for a couple of years now at least. And if we go down to about the middle of the article here, we have a couple of bullet points talking about a white male leader lamenting that he got passed up for a promotion 8 times because a woman or person of color was selected over him. We've seen this happen before, and we've heard people talking about this. An engineer being told that they could only promote diverse talent. Disney? O'Keefe Media Group has leaked these things coming from executives at Disney saying that, oh, that's not what we're looking for. We've seen this stuff come out. We know this is true. Even though there was a white man on the team who had more knowledge and skill for the role. An acquaintance saying that he had to go to another stupid DEI training at his company and that he wasn't going to let them brainwash him into thinking he was somehow bad because he is a white guy. So right up here, they ask a question. Is DEI really disregarding white men? And is this something that leaders should be tending to? In an effort to bring awareness, insight, and empathy to a seemingly taboo topic, I've invited Renu Shevda, head of DEI North America, Talking Talent Inc., and Stephen Humrickhouse, executive director of the Forum on Workplace Inclusion, both of whom are DEI champions, to help explore why white men may be feeling left out of DEI and what might be done. So this is a Forbes interview with 2 DEI champions. And it goes on and on and on as they try to weasel word their way around why it is that white men specifically were pushing back against these DEI programs. And here's where we really get into the point of it. It's not that white men are saying they don't care about DEI or want the pie to be bigger. Most of them say that they do. According to one study, 42% of cisgendered men believe that DEI is extremely important. Where'd you get that number? I don't trust you. So how white men show up for DEI may look different, but their support is still there and still needed. They realized that they needed the white men in order to make this stuff work. Humrickhouse even says, ultimately, if you feel like you belong, the likelihood is that someone has made you feel like you do. We all need to feel that sense of belonging, and whether it's based on your race, gender, orientation, or different ability from other people in the organization, we all want to be in a place where we feel at home. That's no less true for a white man. They're trying to pivot to gain more support. They're trying to weasel word their way around things. Now, this article is on Forbes. You can go look at it. It's from 2022, but it really does talk about how they're changing their position. If we go back to Bridge, we can look, and on the Bridge website, they say, and I'm going to read this for people who may not have yet, because there are a couple of things in here that really kind of prove the points that I was making. Bridge is a purpose-driven community, bias to action focused on the workplace, workforce, and marketplace. The Bridge mission is to create a cultural shift in companies where DEI principles flow through all facets of an organization, from the C-suite and marketing through product development, procurement, and customer service. With the variety of programs that Bridge offers, including proprietary research, storytelling workshops, events, and more, we identify, dismantle, and rethink the structures in place that currently contribute to the gap in belonging, representation, inclusion, diversity, and equity. Bridge is an acronym for these. Our long-term goal, with the help of our founding board members, composed of DEI and business leaders, is to create a comprehensive Bridge agenda for all companies and to subsequently certify against its implementation and measure its impact. Now, Bridge has a couple of new things on their website here, like if you go into their leaders program and go to advocates, these are the people that they want actually working the Bridge work within a company. Let's read why. It is essential that companies don't rely solely on the DE&I leaders to fix the gaps in their organizations. DE&I should not be siloed, but rather needs to become a part of the fabric of all activities of a company and brand. They want you to live the work. You must believe wholeheartedly the way that they believe. If you do that, you can be an advocate. You're one of the people who will help culturally enforce this DEI stuff into a company without calling it DEI. Having advocates is critical for DE&I leaders to be successful, as they help reinforce the need for change and are also likely to be heard differently. The Bridge Advocates Board will operate in support of the Bridge Leaders Board collaboratively, and with input from the Bridge Leaders Board, we will create a meaningful, action-oriented agenda to help define the role and responsibilities of an advocate and how we can help bridge the gaps and work for increased accountability. Now again, this is about trying to get everybody in management positions in the company to do the work that we previously had people like HR people doing, where they are force implementing DEI into the company. If you have your regular managers doing that, you don't even have to call it DEI because it's considered the company's culture. Also, they have Bridge incubators. And this is something, again, that they're still fleshing out and building out, so we don't have a ton of information on this. Their website is still seemingly actively under development after a couple of years. They change things every once in a while, and if you're keeping an open eye on things, you're actually getting some more information because you see this language used in other corporations' DE&I pages, and it's all stemming from Bridge. Bridge Incubators is the place for up-and-coming leaders to make an impact, be mentored, and help define the future of DE&I as ingrained in the DNA of companies. That's what they want. They want it to be the lifeblood of the company. It's just part of the regular culture within the company, and the people who work there strongly believe in these things. That's the goal that they're aiming for. This group will act as a filter against Bridge programs and help with grassroots efforts against underrepresented communities. Here we're going to look at the membership and why some companies that you'll see may not actually be tagging their name on with Bridge, but you can assume a lot of them are collaborating in one way or another with Bridge. Because here is where they actually just flat out tell you what it is that they're trying to do. Bridge is the only independent, action-oriented, purpose-driven DEI trade group for the global marketing industry. Our mission is to move the narrative of DEI from a philosophy to operationalizing inclusion as a business practice. They can get rid of DEI as a term as long as everybody is still living the work. Bridge is an acronym for belonging, which again, you're going to see that word a lot more in a lot of these programs. Representation, inclusion, diversity, and the G is the gap and the E is for equity. See, they've separated the gap in equity slightly from what it is that they're talking about because they're focusing on belonging, representation, inclusion, diversity. They have removed the E. This approach transforms DEI from the job of one to the job of all and removes its dependency on a function or opinions and beliefs and places its success squarely on patterns of behavior, policy, and processes integrated across the organization. If they can get their tendrils into every aspect of a company, you can't escape it. You'll be forced to live this to keep your job. That's where this gets so much scarier than just DEI. This is not the ideology. This is a way to implement the ideology and make sure that everyone believes it. Bridge partners with passionate DEI leaders, marketers, business leaders, and academics to identify, dismantle, and rethink the existing structures that contribute to gaps in the workplace, workforce, and marketplace. Our membership extends across the ecosystem, including brands, agencies, media companies, tech enablers, as well as DEI and HR practitioners and solution providers. Would you like to see how much it costs to actually become affiliated with Bridge? They've got a place for everybody. General membership, corporate membership for DEI marketing and business teams. So these are going to be your companies that try to come in and have some say, maybe get on the board. Whereas your collaborator membership are going to be your independent DEI and HR people. So maybe somebody who runs a consulting company, like, I don't know, something for video games where they want to make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion actually shows up. But, you know, they may be self-employed or have a very small team. Well, here are the numbers. For the Bridge General Membership, the Tier 1 Bridge supporters, if you have less than 10 employees or less than $1 million in revenue, it costs you $5,000. Tier 1 supporter, meaning under 100 employees, you're looking at $15K. And for the Tier 1 supporter that has over 100 employees, you're looking at $25,000. Now for the Bridge enthusiast, you're looking at $35K. It doesn't matter the size of your company. For the Tier 3 Bridge advocate, $85,000 a year to be associated with Bridge. And to be a Bridge champion, $150,000 a year. Now, if you're one of the more independents and the Bridge collaborators, if you have less than 10 employees, $5K, 10 to 25 employees or less than $1 million in revenue, $10K, and 25 plus employees and more than $1 million in revenue, you're looking at $15K. And who are some of the people that we can find that have paid this? Here are your Bridge 2024 conference attendees. The Ad Council. We've got Ancestry.com. We've got Amazon Web Services. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bet you didn't think you'd see that one. Channel Factory. Cisco. Discover. Emory University. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Fidelity Investments. Hilton. iHeartMedia. Indeed. J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. Michelin Tires. Microsoft. MilkPEP. National Geographic Society. NBC Universal. Nielsen. Sephora, the makeup company. Subaru. Target, the weather company. But these are the companies that are involved in Bridge. These are the companies that are not going to move away from DE&I. Frankly, I would love to see our buddy Robbie Starbucks start talking about how Target is moving away from DE&I. We've already heard that Microsoft was, and the CEO of Bridge, Cheryl Dijja, was on the stage with them at Cannes Film Festival. These people are lying to you. They are weasel wording their way around so that they can try to push their ideology further because they've been getting backlash. I hope that you won't give up because I know I'm not going to. Let me know what you guys think about the video down in the comments below. What do you think about Bridge? Do you still think that it's just DEI 2.0? Or do you see that this is something more nefarious because they're being more subversive and they actually want this to infect your personal life as well? Like the video, share the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.